All right, so for this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to construct this site plan. And this is typical of plans that we do in architecture. It's basically showing the site, and hopefully you can see that the property lines are the heaviest lines here, and I'm going to show you how to create these line types. The dimensions are there just so that you can draw everything out. You do not need to draw them. But with this drawing, what I'll be doing is introducing layers. And if you look over on the left-hand side of the instructions, it shows you the layers that you're going to be making and the colors that you're going to be assigning to these layers. And we use layers in AutoCAD to keep everything organized. So you can see that the layer called XSITE, that's going to be yellow, that's for all the site line work, alleys and sidewalks and curbs. Landscape, that's where we're going to put our trees and shrubs. There's a miscellaneous layer, and that's blue. That's going to be showing the existing buildings on the two sides of our property here. And then the property line itself is going to be magenta. That gets its own layer also. So we're going to keep everything organized. And we may end up adding some more layers later, maybe not, but this is a good start. So let me show you. This is what your AutoCAD drawing will look like. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit, and I went ahead and showed the opposite side as well. And that's just a quick, simple mirror that needs to happen, nothing else. And then the trees here, these are blocks that I brought in using the previous entourage drawing. So I'm demonstrating here how blocks come in handy. So that's the example. And let me go ahead and start a new drawing file here. And I'll just come over to the start, go to new, and use my template. Make sure you are saving the file in the correct location and using the appropriate file name. I'm just going to start drawing here, but you should be saving your file. So you should type save as and put it into the correct location. I'm not going to do units, but I will show you because I'm using my HWC template. My units are already set up, so it's really good to be using that template here. All right, to get started, I think we're going to begin by organizing the layers. And if you look on my screen, I already have my layer properties manager open on the side here. It's docked. I'm just going to see if I can grab it and float it here so you can see it. And this is what it looks like. And if you don't have it open, that's okay. Just come up here to the layer properties. You notice it's turned off, which means it's not visible on screen, but I'm going to turn it right back on. There it is. It's currently set to auto hide. So whenever I move my cursor away from the window, it collapses. And then when I move it back on the title bar, it brings it over. So these are the layers. That's how we're going to stay organized. And we'll start really simple and straightforward here. I'm going to go back to the example, and we'll start by creating this layer called XSITE, and that layer color is going to be yellow. So I'm going to hover over here, and I'm going to click right here on this icon where it says new layer. Keyboard shortcut is Alt N. So if you just click that, it'll show you, and it provides a default name, layer 1, and it's highlighted, which means I can backspace and type in my own name. So it's going to be a site, and it doesn't have to be all caps. That's just, what I'm doing here, but you don't have to match that. So a site, and then the color, I'm going to come over here to the color name, and where it says white, I'm going to click on that swatch. And that swatch is going to open this window, and it says select a color. So we're going to stay with the index colors, and we're really just going to stick with these first set of colors here in this row. There are default, let's see, there's 256 colors, I believe. We're not going to use these up here. We're going to stick to the first 7 for now. So index color number 1 here, if I click on it, it tells me that that color is red. Number 2 is yellow. That's the one I want to use, but let me just go through these with you. Number 3 is green. Number 4, cyan. Number 5 is blue. Number 6, magenta. 7 is white. And then after that, color number 8 is just simply color 8. then 9. And then if I were to come up here, this is color number 10, 11, 12, 13, and so on until I get all the way through the list. So I'm going to pick yellow and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So I've created that layer. And if I expand these columns, you'll see that the layers, there's a lot I can control. And I'll focus on just the first couple of columns here. So I can turn layers on and off. So whatever I've drawn on that layer, I can basically hide it. There's an option here also to freeze. And when you freeze an object, that means it's still there, but AutoCAD does not recognize it as part of the extents of your drawing. And then you can lock a layer down. And then the plot option over here, I can set a layer to do not plot, which means I see it on the screen, but I don't see it on my PDF or my printed paper. So those are just some options there to keep in mind. All right, if that's all I wanted to create, I can leave it there, or I can go ahead and add a new layer. So I'll click on that. I'll go back to my PDF, and this one is going to be my XSITE landscape. I'll make that green. And the reason I'm using XSITE is because it's an architectural site plan, and the A stands for architecture. When different disciplines use AutoCAD, they use different prefixes here. So electrical drawings, they would start with the letter E. S would be for structural drawings, M for mechanical, and that's just how we do things in AutoCAD. So this is going to be a site landscape. And really the name doesn't matter. I use descriptions so that I can categorize information, but you can leave these as the default layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and just draw on them. Um, just know that. But in architecture, we try to stay disciplined here. And a site landscape, the color on that, I'm going to click on the swatch here, and I'm going to make that one green. So color 3 is green. Click OK. And then let's see, what other layers do I have? So XSITE miscellaneous, that'll be blue. So I'll hover back over here, click on new. And you'll notice that when I click on new layer, it takes on the properties of the one just above it. So this one will be XSITE MISC for miscellaneous. That one's going to be blue. Okay, that. And then the other one is XSITE property. That's for the property lines, magenta. XSITE property, magenta. And then I click OK. So the layers are here now. And if I want to draw on any of these layers, I have to double click on them. So here's the icon for XSITE. I double click on it, and that now becomes my current layer. So anything I draw is now on that layer. And you'll notice that there's a layer 0, and that's the one we have been using so far. But moving forward, we're going to leave that layer alone. That's a special layer used primarily for making blocks. Based on everything that we're going to do. And we'll put everything and organize it on layers. So that's how I can make a layer current, by just double clicking on the icon next to it, like that, or like that. Another way to make a layer current, and let me just take this first and dock it. I'm anchoring it over here to the left. Okay. Another way to make a layer current is to come into the layers panel and then go to the drop down, and you can see the layers are here, and all I have to do is click on this one called XSITE, and that becomes the current layer. And anything I draw on that layer, for example, if I draw a line like this, it is now on that layer. And you can see it's yellow. And what's really nice with layers here too is I can select that object, and I can come up here to the layers, and I can say, you know what, put it on this layer, XSITE property. And the properties of that line change. They now reside on this layer, and it takes on the color properties of that layer. All right. I'll just take that line and delete it. And I think I'll go ahead and get started. One thing I do want to mention before I continue, this file name is going to be called XSITE. It has your first initial last name. And the reason it has an X in front of it is because it will be used as an external reference, something we have not discussed yet, but we will be discussing it later. So just keep that in mind. In case you were curious, why put the X in front of it? There's a reason for it. So just wanted to let you know. Back to the PDF. And I'm indicating that you can start your 00 right here at this corner. And I basically want to draw the line work here that represents the sidewalk. And it's going all the way from this point 00 all the way to the end. And that overall distance there, if I look at my dimension string up here at the top, that is 125 feet long. So that's a line starting at 00, going all the way to my right, 125 feet. So that's what I'll start with. And then the other line, it'll also start at 0, and then it's just going to go up. And there's no real length on that. You can cut it off anywhere, um, and you'll see in just a moment. So I'll start with that line first. And this line, let's see, it'll go on the A-site layer. Yes, for all the site line work, sidewalks included. So I'll go back over here. And I will start by drawing a line, L, enter. I want that to start at 00, so I type 0, comma 0, enter. And it's somewhere down there. Let me zoom out. There we go. Take it straight across in this direction. If you need to, turn ortho on. That way you know it's straight. And then in that direction, I'm just going to type in a value of 125 feet. Make sure you put the foot mark there, the apostrophe, and enter. And that's a pretty long line, so I'm going to enter again. Terminates the command, and I will type Z enter, E enter to zoom extents. So that is 125 feet. Much different than the drawings we have been constructing before of the tables and chairs, which are relatively small compared to this long line. All right, 125 feet there. And then I'll draw another line. So I'll just right click, repeat a recent input line here. I'll start at the endpoint there and take it straight up this way. I don't know how far up I want to go, so I'm just going to take it up and just click right here for now and tap the escape key. I see that my UCS is right here at the 00 point, so just real quick, just a little quick review. I'm going to type in UCS icon, enter, and I want it set to no origin. And then it's going to dock it over in the left-hand corner. And I will now continue. So the next line I want to draw is the sidewalk. So if I zoom in here, and let me pan this over 1 second. There we go. Sorry. Okay. So I'm basically going to offset the line 6 feet, and then I'll offset 9 feet, and then I'll offset 6 inches just to get the sidewalk, the line work there for the sidewalk and the primary, or the, sorry, the parkway landscape. So 6 feet, 9 feet, 6 inches. Pan this here, type O for offset, 6 feet, enter. I select this line, offset it down. I'll pick the new line here, offset it down, type in 9 feet, enter. And then I pick that last line, bring it straight down, and now I'm going to offset and I'll type 6 inches and enter. And I'll enter to terminate the command. So that takes care of some of the line work there. And I'll keep going and I'll see what's going on the other side. So I'm going to pan over and let's see. Let me just pan over this way. And it looks like I have similar dimensions, 6 feet, 9 feet, 6 inches. So to save me a little bit of time, I'm going to use my mirror command. And the way this mirror command is going to work is using polar tracking. So I'm going to turn on polar tracking. I'm going to make sure that I have it set to 45, which I do. And by the way, my object snaps, if you want to take a look, this is what I have it set to. Okay, and now I'll continue. So I'm going to zoom in right in here, and I'm going to type MI, enter to mirror, and I'm just going to use a crossing window, pick these three lines, enter. I'm going to go from this endpoint. Polar tracking is on. I want it to go at a 45-degree angle like that. And then I'm going to click. And click no to erasing the source objects. And you can see how it's going. And now I can take this line and basically just bring it up. I don't need to line it up. I just want to extend it. I'm going to be trimming these later anyway. All right, so that's the beginning of my site drawing. So now if I look at my example here, I just have to finish this off. You could see that I have a radius here of 15 feet and then a radius of 15 foot 6. If you do the math, 9 plus 6 is 15. So that's how you get that radius. So I'll go ahead and put that in, and then I'll get the other line work in there as well. In fact, I can probably start putting the other line work in now. And here's where I kind of like just to draw freely. So I can just type L, enter from here, take it down there, enter, enter again to repeat the line command like this, and enter. And then I'm going to type F for fillet, enter. I'm going to type R for radius and enter. And that's going to be 15 feet, enter. And I select this line and this one. And then I'm going to offset it because it's just a 6-inch offset. I don't need to do a fillet radius of 15 foot 6. I could, but I rather do it this way. So I type O, enter for offset, 6 inches. So I type 6 and enter, and I select this line and I offset it to the outside and click and enter. And I know that they are lining up. And sometimes what I like to do is just do a crossing window like this to make sure that those endpoints are lined up, and they are. Tap the escape key, zoom it out, and I'm getting there. Over to the other side, I have an alley, and if I zoom up here, if I pan up here, that alley is 15 feet wide. So I'll go ahead and drop in that alley. So I know that this is 125 feet, so I'm going to draw a line. So L, enter. From here, take that straight up, not getting it to line up to anything, just trying to match the length on the opposite side. I'll click, enter. And there should be another line here if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a look. And it actually is going to go all the way straight down. Okay. So I'll just take this line, select it. I know I could extend, but it's much easier for me to just grip it here, give it a click, and take it straight down to that endpoint like that, and then tap the escape key. And then I'm going to offset. So I type O, enter, 15 feet, enter. And I select this line, offset it to the right and click and enter. And now I can leave it like that for now. And it looks like there's some extra lines here to show the continuation of the sidewalk. So I'll go ahead and put that in now. So watch what I'm going to do. I want to take all 4 of these lines. So I just use a crossing window like this, implied crossing. And I'm going to type MI, enter. And I want to mirror them. And I want to mirror them, and I want to make sure that it's down the middle here of my alley. So I'm going to use Shift right click. Shift right click. And I want to find the midpoint between 2 points. And that midpoint is going to be between this endpoint and this endpoint. And there it goes. And I just click up here, or I click down here and click no, and I have the line work. Now, I don't need to finish it. I could later, but really all we're going to be seeing is this here. So I'm going to focus on this area. I just wanted to show you how to mirror using that um, mirror between 2 points, midpoint between 2 points. All right, so I have the line work in place. I look at my example, I scroll up. I don't know how far I have to keep the line going, but we're good so far. And I think what I'm going to do now is get my property in place. So I know that this property here is 25 feet wide, and then our lot, we're going to call this a double lot. That's why it's 50 feet. So I'm going to offset the line 25 feet and then offset again 50. We're coming in here, zoom in, type O for offset, 25 feet, enter. I select this line, offset it up, select the line again, or the last line, click here, and then type 50 feet. Make sure you put the foot mark there, enter. And that's going to be our property. So I'll just enter right there. And now would be a good time to save the drawing. So Control S, or just go to the application button and save so that you don't lose any of this line work. All right, that's all done. So now what I'd like to do is start to get my property lines in there because I think everything is good. And then I'll come back and put in the buildings. But I want to touch on the property lines. So this line here and this one, I'm selecting them. I want them to be on the property line. So with them selected, I go to my drop down here and I say a site property. Great. And they are now that magenta color. And the reason that we use different colors here is because when it comes time to print, each one of these colors is going to represent a different line weight. So this magenta color is going to be a heavier line weight than the yellow lines. And that's how we control the line weights in printed drawings. So to continue, I want to put in the two lines here to connect my properties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my icons, and I can go to the drop down and just make my XSITE property layer current by clicking on it like this. That's one way to do it. The other way, I could have clicked on make current. And if you click on make current, it says go ahead and select the object whose layer will become current. And if I pick this layer for this line here, look at that. It makes that layer current. So either one works fine. I'll go ahead and click on make current, and I pick this line, and then I can continue. So I'm going to type L, enter, drawing a line from this endpoint to that endpoint. Enter terminates the command, and if I enter again, I can continue from this endpoint to that one. Enter. Now, from here, if you want to, it's not necessary, but if you wanted to, you can join all four of the lines. So I'm just going to window them like this, and then type J and enter. And they're joined. So now when I select one, or I hover over one, all of them are now one single polyline. Next up, I need to represent this property using this line type. In AutoCAD, this is called a phantom line type. In architecture, it's referred to as a property line, and it's a long line followed by two dashes, and then it just repeats itself. So that's what we need to establish here. And I'm going to go back to my drawing, and I need to add this line type to my AutoCAD drawing file. If I go over here to my properties, I look at the options here, and this says line weight. We're not going to touch that one. Don't use that. It's this one where it says line type. And I'm going to click on, let's see, first of all, if I click on this small arrow down here for properties, is that going to do anything for me? No. Sorry. I was just checking a couple of things. It's just showing me the properties window. Sorry. What I'm going to do is click on the drop down here where it says line type. And then I want to select other. And when I click other, this window opens up. And this is the line type manager. And right now in my drawing, these are the only line types I have. What I'd like to do is load additional line types. So I click on load. Let me move this to the side for a second. Click on load. And then this window opens. And I'm going to put it up here and I'm going to make it longer like this. So these are all of the AutoCAD line types available. And I want to come down here and use Phantom. And you'll see that there is Phantom, Phantom 2, and then Phantom X2. Basically, it's the same line type. However, this line type here, Phantom 2, is half of the scale of the first one. So instead of the dash being, let's say, 1 unit long, here it's half a unit long. And then Phantom X2, it doubles that line. So if this was 1 unit long, this is now going to be 2 units long. It doesn't matter which one you select because we need to modify the line type scale anyway. So I'm going to pick Phantom and I'm going to click OK. And what that did is put that line type into my drawing and it's now in my line type manager. So I can go ahead and click OK now. And then I will click on the property lines. And then I'm going to come over here to the line types. And I'm going to change it to a phantom line type. And when I do that, you'll notice, looks like nothing changed. But if I zoom in, and I mean really zoom in, you could see it's there. Let me tap the escape key. So it's taking on the properties that it should take on, but I need to modify the line type scale. So to do this, let me zoom out and I'm going to click on it again and then right click it and go to properties. And that opens up your properties window. In the properties window here, you want to change the line type scale. Right now it's set to 1. I always tell students, change it to 12. Why 12? Because there are 12 inches to a foot. There's no relationship to it. I'm just using it as a starting point. You got to start somewhere. So I start with 12 and then I enter. And the reason I start with 12 is because I look at the line type scale and I go, well, if it's still not big enough, I double it. If it got too big, then I go down and I cut the value in half. So it looks like I need to go up in size, in scale. So I'm going to go back to my manager. It's still selected. Sorry, here's where I want to go. Properties, not line layer manager. Properties. And instead of 12, I'm going to double that to 24. And then I'm going to zoom out, see what it's looking like. Almost there. I'm going to go back to my properties. And instead of 24, I'm going to double that to 48. And if that doesn't look good, double that. Double 48, 96. And that looks better. And if I look at my example, you could see. So it's somewhere in there, 48, 96. And by the way, those values that I'm using also, they relate back to the scale factors, which is totally different. And I don't want to get off topic, but that's why I'm using them. So any value between that will work. And if you used Phantom X or Phantom 2X, then you'll make adjustments as well. So that's good. I'll leave it at that, and then I will continue. Next up, the buildings. So if I go back to my example, didn't mean to take it away. I just want to put in the buildings here. And a typical city lot is 25 by 125 and you have a building on there, it's usually 20 feet wide because you need setbacks on the two sides. And it's either 2 feet or 3 feet or 2.5 and 2.5. Either way equals adds up to five. So 20 feet, and then they're typically 50 feet long, in some cases just a little bit longer, but that works. And then I showed a rectangle here for a garage, and then this happens to be the backyard. And then the building, in some places, um, the buildings are set back 20 feet, which is what I've shown here. In other cases, I've seen them less, but this is pretty typical. So I'm going to use this as my guide, and you're welcome to take some creative license, make it a little bit longer if you want, whatever you'd like to do. So 20 feet from the front, and watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go back to my drawing. I'm going to zoom in right here. I'm going to type in O for offset, 20 feet, enter. I'm going to take this line, offset it this way, 20 feet. I'm going to take that new line, offset it back 50 feet, and then I will go ahead and pick this line, and I want to offset it up. I believe it was 2 feet. 2 feet, enter. And then I'll leave it at that because if I offset this line, it's a whole polyline, it's not going to work out. So actually what I can do is I can take this line and offset it up. Yeah, it's already set to 20 feet, so I'll go ahead and click. And I just want to double check if it was 2 feet at the bottom. Yes, it was, and then 3 feet. Great. Okay, and then from here, I'll just enter, terminates the command. And then what I'd like to do is fillet my corners. So I'm going to type F, enter. And I know I want this to be multiple, and I'm also looking at the radius. It's currently set to 15, so I need to change that. So I'm going to type R, enter, 0, enter. And then I'm going to go multiple, so M, enter. And I'll just go around all four corners here, picking my lines like this. And enter. And then if you want, select all four lines like this and type J, enter. That joins them, converts them into a polyline. I'm going to pick it, and then I'm going to change that layer to my miscellaneous layer like this. And now it's a little bit hard to see on screen. And the reason this is blue is because the blue line is going to print lighter. And then the next thing I want to do is put in my garage. And that garage is just 1 foot off of the alley, but it's 20 feet wide and it's also 20 feet deep. So it's a square. And let me show you one way I would do that. And I'm just here to introduce different commands. So in the general vicinity here, I want to draw a rectangle, something we haven't done before. So I go to the Home tab, Draw Panel, and right here it says rectangle. And if I click on the drop down, I can also do a polygon, but I just want a rectangle for now. So I'm going to click there, rectangle. And it says go ahead and, specify the first corner point. And watch this because I want to use this endpoint as a guide. I'm going to click here for now. And then it says dimensions in the options. So I'm going to type D, enter. And it says, what is the length for the rectangle? Well, it's 20 feet. So I type 20 feet, enter. And then it says, what's the width? Also 20 feet. So I type 20 feet, enter. And I have my rectangle. And then it asks to specify other corner point. So it's going to be somewhere up here. I click, I'm all set. It's not on the right layer and it's not in the right location. That's okay. So here's what I like to do. I want to take that rectangle, highlight it, type M, enter. And it's much easier to take it from this endpoint and move it over. And I have tracking on, so that's why it's tracking this point. And then I click here. So it's right up against my alley, but I want to bring it back a foot. So I'm going to click on it again, type M, enter. Click here and move it straight back 12 inches. So I type 12 and enter. And now it needs to be on the same layer as the building. So one way to do it is to select it, come up here to my drop down and pick the layer. Yes, that'll work, but I want to show you another option. And this one is the match command. So match properties here, MA, match properties, enter. And it says select source object. This is my source object. I click on it. And then immediately it says select destination object. This is my destination object. I click it here and then I enter and it takes on those properties. It's really neat. I'll show you one more time, and this is just as an example. I'm going to undo. Watch this. MA enter. And let's say I wanted to take the properties of this line or this polyline and apply it to this polyline or this line. You see how it would take it on? And that's pretty neat. So match properties, MA, it's a nice command to use. All right. Now is a good time also to save. Save your site. And then I will continue. I'll pan up here. It looks like there's one more building and a garage. So it's pretty much in the same location as the one down here. So it's just a matter of copying it. So I'm going to select both of them like this, implied crossing window. CP enter to copy from this endpoint and then pan up some more to this endpoint and click and then tap the escape key. And we're basically showing that we have two buildings, single story, we could say, on either side, and garages. And we're going to be using this site for our project. We're just getting everything ready now. Before I continue, just want to point out that I have a couple of overlapping lines here. They're what we call collinear. And I want to make sure that I'm able to see my property line above the alley line here. So do this, make sure that you select that property line and then right click it and then go to draw order and say bring to front. And that will make sure that it is above all of the other lines. And now it reads a little bit better here on screen. All right. Next thing I want to do is put in my trees. And this is great because I already made trees and I already made a block out of those trees. And if I go over here to my start menu and I look at my entourage, if you did not make blocks yet, now's a good time to pause and make the blocks. But I remember making a block out of this tree. So I'm going to go back to my drawing and I know that I can bring that block in. So I will go to the Insert tab, insert here in the block panel, and then Insert dropdown. And then I'll go to Blocks from Libraries. I'll click that. And then I'll come over here and I'll click on the icon to display libraries. And I want to open up the entourage drawing. So I click on it and open. Pause for a moment while it loads that drawing file. So this is the entire drawing, and I don't want to bring that in. And then these are a couple of blocks in that drawing file. And this is the tree that I want to bring in. All I'm going to do is click on it and then bring it over. And I'll drop it in somewhere here near the corner for now. Done. Now you'll notice It was brought in and it is taking on the properties of the current layer. If I go back to my home tab, the XSITE property was my current layer. This block was created on layer 0. Layer 0 is very special in AutoCAD. Like I said, we only use it to create blocks. And the reason for that is because once we make the block, when we bring it into another drawing file, it will take on the color properties of any layer that you put it on. So I'm simply going to click on the block and I'm going to move it from that layer over to the appropriate one, which is the landscape layer. And now it takes on the color properties of that layer, which is great. So that's the tree. Let me tap the escape key. So notice how that previous drawing and making a block out of that tree has saved me a bit of time here. And I'm going to show you how to save a little more time. So back to the example, and you'll see how these trees are different sizes. Let me zoom out a little bit here. And they're placed, randomly. You don't need to match this drawing. You can put trees anywhere. You can add more, whatever you'd like to do. And then you're also going to have trees in your property too. But I'm just showing the ones in the parkway. We haven't touched the site yet. When we do, we can start adding trees there. And you'll see that they're different sizes and they're also oriented differently, but it's the same block. Let me show you what I did. Going back to my example, there's the tree. And let's say I take this tree, I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to type CP to copy it, enter. And I just want to copy it in this direction, at least 25 feet or so, 20 to 25 feet. So, or more if you want, but I'll type in 25 feet, enter. And if you want, drop another tree. Let's say this one is 50 feet away. And then tap the escape key. And now, here, I want to show you what else I can do. I can go over to my Insert tab, and because that's already a block in my drawing file, I can go to the Insert dropdown. There's the tree. Just click on it here and place it right there. And notice how it wants to snap somewhere. And that's because I have my OSnaps turned on. But I'll just go ahead and just give it a click right there and it'll move there. And it's also on the property layer, so I want to change that. So I'm just going to tap the escape key a couple times, click on the tree, go back to the home tab, and put it on the layer there. All right, tap the escape key. And this time I'm going to say copy, CP, enter, select the object, enter. And now I'm just going to be real random. One here. And let me turn off polar just because I want these to move a little bit like this, like that, maybe like that. All right. They're all the same size. Don't want that. And I believe the original size, if I come over here and I just look at the circle, right? That circle, if I go to the properties, that was a 20-foot diameter. So it's not a bad size. But knowing that it's 20 feet, I'll come back over here. And let's say that this tree right here, sorry, wrong drawing. That's my example. There we go. Here's where I want to go. So let's take this tree and I'll go to the properties. And instead of the scale being -1, that's all right. Could be 1, -1, doesn't matter. I want to make this smaller. So I'm going to say 0.75 and enter. So see how it makes it smaller. And then on the rotation, instead of 270, I'll change it. Let's say 250. See how that changes it a little bit? I'll go to another tree. Let's take this one and go back to the properties. And I want that. And by the way, the reason it's a -1 is because it somehow is coming in mirrored. I don't know why. And that's okay. It doesn't matter. I'm going to change this to say 1.25 and enter. There we go. And see how I made it bigger. And it's okay. Trees tend to extend past that area over the sidewalks and over the streets. That's all right. I closed out of that accidentally. So I can just go ahead and click on the grip here. And then I can tap the space bar again until it shows me rotate, and I'll just rotate it in this direction like that. So now it looks different than the other one. Let's take this tree, go to the properties, and I'll change that to, let's say, 0.8. A little smaller than the other one also. Click on it here. I can right click and say rotate. I'll rotate in a different direction like that. Tap the escape key. And now I want to fix these. So I'll take that one, properties. I want to make this maybe 1.1. I'll go to the tap the escape key, go to the properties of this one, maybe change that one to 0.9, just to vary it up a little bit. Take this one, go to the properties, maybe change that to 1.2. And then this will go quick. Click on it, space bar until I see rotate. Rotate it in this direction, escape. Click on this one, use that grip point, that insertion point, space bar until I see rotate, rotate it in that direction, escape key, click on this one, click on the insertion point, space bar a couple of times, gets me to rotate. I want to rotate it in this direction, tap the escape key. And then I think I want to take this one and just move it in a little bit like that, just so it's not straight. And then I'll take that one, maybe tap the escape key, take this one, just move it here. You want to make them look very, very natural. Trees are never set in perfect order. As much as we want that to be the case, it just doesn't happen. So that would be the site. And of course, Control S, save. You'll be all set. And it looks like that drawing is complete for now. We'll come back to it later, but that is the base site plan that you're going to need. And then we'll start talking about the plan. What is it that you're going to be putting into this double lot, this site? And then make sure zoom extents. And if you wanted to, you could, I know you're not going to see the houses, but you can take the garages and just copy them over to the other side, mirror them, whatever you'd like to do, embellish. This is the bare minimum, and you're more than welcome to go above and beyond. All right. Thank you very much.